original, mighty the god, the magical radical. Representing my magical, young Jose come million. Jamaica wacha, that defta, kina teach me kenyo Jamaica kopa. That wacha, kina damage me kenyo Jamaica wacha. That defta, kina teach me kenyo Jamaica kopa. That defta, kina damage me kenyo.
Gangsta de kamele they are man, they are for the bed. The heaven they say you're my baby. Every day I call you my blow, you're my treasure. Baby got your machina yo, baby quackana yo. When it's about your cola, baby got your machina, baby got your quara. You are said bandada, you must say bandova, you must say bandada. Baby got your tema gama quackana.
Good evening, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okon. I'm talking about work in the United Kingdom, about pay. Also, if I'm talking about work and pay in the United Kingdom, pay attention if you are not in the United Kingdom. If you are in the United Kingdom and in Europe, all the more reason to pay attention, because what happens in the United Kingdom also happens in your country. Therefore, when we talk about work and pay, we talk about income. And stay tuned, continue watching going forward, and watch this video and the rest of the video, and let me know your thoughts, and also clicking like and notification bell, and watching the video with the rest of the video on this series. Thank you so much for subscribing. If you have already subscribed, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing to support this program. The subscription is free and you don't need to pay anything. It takes seconds so to do. Thank you so much. And we get paid when we work in the United Kingdom, or if we work somewhere else. And normally when employers go out of business, they are supposed to pay off people they owe, as in debt and creditor relationship being created between employer and employee, among other creditors and debtors. And there is therefore an automated, or perhaps also artificial, or actually systematic hierarchy of creditor. And there are situations where employee or a claimant in this situation can claim as a preferential creditor. A preferential creditor take precedence one way or the other before other creditors. Creditors is if you are the one making claim for a debtor, in this case a debtor being employer, and a creditor being employee, who is facing a situation of being compensated or actually given money because the employer has gone out of business. So someone in that situation, if they are not allowed to claim a debt from the redundancy payments, and watch this video and the rest of the video. This is continuation from redundancy payment service, or payment from the fund that has not fully made the money that they are owed. They may be able to claim that money as a preferential creditor. We talk about preferential creditor, like I said already. There are different types of creditors, and preferential creditor in the hierarchy of creditors take more precedent. And this is a situation where an employer is in a place of preferred creditor, preferential creditor, so they can therefore claim arrears or pay during the 4 months before the business went insolvent. This includes sickness or maternity pay, or accrued holiday pay, which are different elements of pay, guarantee payments, payment for a type of work, to look for work, or arrange training when employee has been made redundant on the account of there being no work because of the the insolvency situation, therefore also payment for time off for antenatal care. Antenatal care is following a woman who has given birth. Payment during some suspension from work on ground of sickness or paternity. This may be a situation pertaining when employer go out of business, being insolvent. Payment for carrying out trade union duties, payment for a protective award or redundancy, where a tribunal has ruled that employee should be entitled to an amount of pay for the protected period during a redundancy because the employer has failed to consult properly about the redundancy. These are some of the specifics, more also about the employer's duty to consult in a redundancy situation. Stay tuned, continue watching. So the maximum payment that a client can receive as a preferential debt is £800. Leave a comment below, let me know what your thoughts are in terms of these matters. So for any money owed over this amount, the client will be treated as an ordinary creditor. It is unlikely that the receiver liquidator will be able to get enough money from the sale of the business to pay all the debts in full. It is probable, therefore, that the client will only receive a percentage of the money that is owed to them. For example, the client may only get a percentage of their preferential debts and none of their ordinary debts. Stay tuned, continue watching, leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. We're looking at tax and national insurance on payments for the liquidator, from the liquidator, which is actually the employer, agents who are actually undertaking the process of liquidation. Payments from the liquidator will be paid net of tax and national insurance contribution. Net of tax means you have deducted tax and national insurance, which are forms of deduction from pay in the United Kingdom. So if at the end of the tax year, the client's gross income is less than their tax allowances, they can claim that the excess tax they have paid. Stay tuned, continue watching. So let us look more about how to claim tax refund. You can do this online on gov.uk or ACOS or the rest of the other websites online as always. So we are looking also at our payments from the liquidator affect entitlement to benefit or tax credit. We are talking about benefits and tax credit and entitlement to this. These are monies which may or may be available to be paid to an employee. So a payment from a liquidator cannot be treated as income for any particular week. However, it will be treated as capital. The payment will be treated as capital for the purposes of universal credit, income support, income-based job seekers allowance, housing benefit, and council tax reduction. Stay tuned, continue watching. These are monies paid by the government, Department of Work and Pension, to individuals who may be eligible for the same. If you're looking at capital, which is not taken into account in working tax credit or child tax credit claims, although income from capital may be taken into account. So for more information about treatment of capital, the way it is treated for these purposes, look at our website of welfare benefit and tax credit handbook. We can also look at further information as may or may not be necessary, and you can go to gov.uk website Thank you so much. Stay tuned, continue watching. So in this series, we look at payment of wages. When you work for a living, you are paid wages. We also look at information on payments of wages, covering our wages are paid, itemized payment statements, and other payments of wages. Stay tuned, continue watching. We look at equal pay, defining what pay is and who can claim equal pay and what equal work is. Talk about equal work. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. So giving advice on to whom a worker compares or himself with. Secrecy clauses. The employer's defense. How to make a claim and possible remedies. These are some of the areas we look at which are specific to employment in the United Kingdom. Stay tuned, continue watching. You look at the national minimum wage and living wage in the United Kingdom. If you do a study of work and pay and different elements of work, that is technical merits or otherwise. Look at the UK, you also look at countries outside the United Kingdom. And this is the things I have said at the beginning. At the beginning when commencing the process of discussing work and the laws, in particular employment law, covering work and different aspects. So information of who is entitled to national minimum wage, and MW, and people who are not covered by the national minimum wage, and which work hours applies to the national minimum wage. So you have in this country, there are categories of workers who are not qualified to get a national minimum wage. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. If everyone in this country working should automatically get a national minimum wage. Remember, I said before, my concern about work under the auspices where the UK government and also the government of the world have increasingly, perhaps also ultimately, privatized the public sector. In so privatizing the public sector, employment also included. Employment being an economic and also a social factor. The same has been also subjected to privatization when the economy, the British economy, at that has been sold off to private individuals who are multimillionaires and multimillionaires. We have discussed this over time. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thought. If you are a child, if you're a young person, if you're a child, you can speak on this platform. Leave a comment below. Let me know. If you're a parent, leave a comment. Let me know your views. If you live, especially if you live in the UK, because work is extremely important. It is the source of income, the primary source of income in the United Kingdom. In as much as we also get other types of support, financial support, such as benefits, which is part of the welfare system, welfare economy, created incidentally by the Labour Party after the war, the First and the Second World War, when Britain and Europe were destroyed. That gave rise to a group of politicians or political class who created the welfare state, including the National Health Service, the Labour Party, who is now in power, who have been elected recently. And so, with the majority, a landslide victory, which they won the last general election, my hope is that for the Labour Party to try and salvage whatever little is left from the private public sector. And I've already said that the public sector is the only sector capable of providing public service. However, changes in the global politics and also movements within capitalism has now necessitated for countries, including Britain, to privatize the economy, including employment, which is done through privatizing trade, industry, and businesses, especially the corporate economic system. The small and medium businesses mushroomed during the 1980s with the rise of Thatcherite, which occurred under Prime Minister, then Prime Minister, Conservative Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, kick-starting the beginning of reforming British economy from a normal capitalism where the public sector, the state intervening to moderate capitalism. Margaret Thatcher and the Conservative Party beginning a reform which led to the extremitizing of capitalism and the selling away of the public sector. Therefore, we are left in a situation where the private sector is now ruling this country. You rule with wealth. If you don't have wealth, if you are an Elon Musk, then you are the new ruler, you are the new government. Therefore, we are left in a situation where the government we elect are in vain. Because democracy has failed. Democracy is soul of the country. When we elect now any government into power, we elect in vain. Democracy is an empty statement, an empty doctrine. Because without money, without wealth in the country, the government does not exist. And therefore that spells out the end of the age of the state. And the Conservative Party, especially of David Cameron, former British Prime Minister of the Conservative, say they are reducing the state. They want a small government. They want a small state. They are going to give back our country, which we applauded. We were happy. We said, yes, we are going to get back our country. And we did. Also, we thought we did. Because the giving away of the country back to the British people means privatization. Read my lips, no more taxes, so they say. But they are taxing the people who are supposed to be taxed, the working class, the small and medium businesses. If you are small and poor, you are taxed. That's what the market looks like. It's a type of jungle, survival of the fittest in the Darwinian precepts. Stay tuned, continue watching, leave a comment below. What do you think about survival of the fittest in the Darwinian, precepts? What do you think? Subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, leave a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. And so, they say to us, you will have your country back, and we were happy. Education is going to be given to us. Healthcare is going to be given back to us. Housing is going to be given back to us. Money, what was in welfare, is going to be given to us, which is a good thing. Or is it, leave a comment below, is it a good thing or a bad thing? What do you think? Do you think welfare should be under the welfare state, welfare individual, welfare family, welfare community, welfare society? How is it going to look like for people who are sick, children, poor people, people who are disabled, homeless people, people who cannot access health? If you go to the hospital in the United Kingdom, you have to pay. There are no more doctor's appointment for families in the United Kingdom. If you are registered with general practitioner, family doctor, there is no more appointment from the doctor. You have to register privately as a private a patient in the United Kingdom today as I speak. They may not tell you. You go to your GP, you ask for doctor's appointment. You go and do health check, and the healthcare assistant will recommend for you to see a doctor. You ask them, can you book an appointment for me with the doctor? They say no. You go home and phone. I am in the clinic, family clinic. Can I go to the reception and book? Healthcare assistant says you can go and try. And then you go to the reception. You stand on the queue, maybe for 10-20 minutes. You had an appointment with the healthcare assistant to do health check, which is what is still happening in the hospital, in the family clinics. And then at the reception, a receptionist will say, we don't pre-book our doctor's appointment. We don't pre-book doctor's appointment, which means they don't book appointment for the GP, for the doctor, family doctor. They don't do that. It's not in their practice. What am I going to do? Go home and phone us tomorrow morning. When you phone us tomorrow morning, come back when you get an appointment. Stay tuned, continue watching. Thank you so much. Good evening.
MVC record.
Brava Jesus on the beat.
So, continuing talking about the public sector, the closure of the public sector in the United Kingdom, the privatizing of the economy, talk about the social sector, hospitals, family doctors. Why there is no more general practice in the United Kingdom for the poor? Nothing. You are excluded from healthcare. If you are poor in Britain, you're on your own. You cannot get treatment. If you are a government patient, you are not going to get any treatment in the United Kingdom, period. Because there is no appointment, doctor's appointment. If the doctor, you cannot see the doctor in the hospital, you don't get prescription drugs. And they are free, or you pay at a subsidized rate, which means now even medical checkup, complicated medical checkup, you don't get it. By the time you see a doctor, maybe at the accident and emergency in the main hospital, maybe you're probably dying. If you have cancer, if you have life-threatening health condition because you are not being supported by the family doctor, you go in an emergency, maybe it is too little, too late. If you don't have money in the United Kingdom today, you are going to die. Because you cannot afford private health care. You cannot afford private health care. And going forward, it's going to be more and more expensive. You need to get health care, health insurance, not to mention life insurance when you die. Because when you die, especially if you're a foreigner, you are not going to be buried in the United Kingdom because you don't have money. So life insurance is a must. But if you don't have money to pay for life insurance, you are in trouble. Life insurance for when you die. Health insurance for when you need medical help privately. And if you cannot afford it, you are on your own. There is no dental service for people who have no money, because the public healthcare dentistry is closed. Even if they can register you, and they no longer take in new patients. They no longer register you. If you stay for maybe a year or 2 years without being in contact with your dentist, they are going to deregister you. Deregister means the opposite of registration. You go and register for a dental service, and you go back. They look on the computer and say you are not on our record. Okay, this is my dental practice, and they say to you, probably you have been deregistered. What does that mean? They say you have been removed from our register. But you didn't tell me. Yeah, we don't have to tell you. If we don't hear from you for a while, we just remove you from our record. But even if you are on their record, 90%, perhaps 80% of proper treatment, dental treatment, is given to private patients. If you have a teeth problem, the only thing done is giving you a painkiller, a bit of information, and pull off your tooth. It's called extraction. There's another one called implant. 9 out of 10 times, you're not going to get implant if you are a government, if you are public patient. It's called National Health Service, NHS patient, in the United Kingdom. This information helps people in Britain, help people outside Britain, in Europe, America, Asia, and Africa, to understand that globalization and capitalism have shut down the public sector, including the health sector. If you live in Africa, you understand it better than when you live in the UK or in Europe or America. You understand the concept of capitalism better. You may not know it is capitalism. People will say, we used to get free treatment, but we no longer get free treatment. But they don't know why they are not longer getting. You go to the hospital, you have to buy a bed. This is government hospital in Africa. You will be told this is a government website, government service, health care. You get service there for free. When you fall sick, you have to pay for diagnosis. You are at the hospital, you are at the point of death with diseases, emergency diseases like malaria, or other emergency, maybe you got an accident, a motor accident, you are at the point of death. If you are not some help immediately, and in this situation, you cannot access, you will not get even a doctor to come and see you. You have to pay bribe. They don't call it bribe anymore. In different countries, they are use different languages, because this is a public service hospital. There is something called facilitation payment. In certain countries, perhaps also up and down the continent, they give different names. For you asking money to see a doctor, to even if you cannot sit, you're going to be laid on the floor, because you to get a bed, you need facilitation, you need to pay. And then to get a doctor, you have to pay. To get the doctor quickly, you have to pay more. And then the doctor comes. To be examined, you have to pay by a doctor. To be examined more quickly, you got to pay more. To be examined thoroughly, you have to pay. Maybe to be kept in the hospital overnight, you have to pay more. So that you are tested. Even if when you are tested, even if when you pay, it's still like playing a lottery. Maybe if you want the doctor to like you, you have to pay more. I don't know. If you comment below, if you live in Africa, if you live in the third world, or Asia, or America, or the UK, that is the result of privatization. The public service. I want to talk about healthcare, but you also talk about schools in the UK and across the globe. You talk about employment, you talk about healthcare. In this topic, I'm talking about employment, which is important in terms of income. Because if you have income, you talk about national minimum wage and living wage, which is set at now about £11 an hour. Leave a comment below if you think that is enough. If you live in the United Kingdom, a policy leaving the British people in poverty is a policy of negligence by the government. The national minimum wage and living wage in the United Kingdom, the level should go up enough to get the British people out of poverty so that they can pay for their health care privately. Because privatization has now occurred, we still have a policy on national minimum wage. Now, we don't know, because this is a social policy objective within the employment sector. The difficulty with national minimum wage and living wage is that the economy of employment has been privatized. So we are asking the private sector, private owners of wealth in the United Kingdom to implement public service, which is more than an anomaly in terms of policy, more than a policy anomaly. Because you see, the private sector and the private companies are not designed to provide public service. Public service is providing help for those who cannot afford in a country. People who previously were slaves, but because of civilization and development in politics, modern politics and modern society, we decided slaves will now be citizens. And so we embrace the concept of citizenship. We introduced the idea of democracy, which means we are free. We are no longer slaves. But when we don't get paid by private companies, When we don't get paid enough by public company, we revert back to condition of slavery. The relationship between citizens and employer and government revert back to the past as seen between masters and slaves. And this is a reality pertaining to income problem in the United Kingdom. In the first instance, from employment, but also from benefit. When we created the welfare system, the presumption was to get the British people out of poverty. In a country like Britain, the sixth richest country in the world, in the modern world, ruled by technology, wealth flows like a river. In countries, including in Africa, the problem, the offense, the policy offense, is one of inequality, injustice, social injustice. I fail to understand the basis of offense in terms of social injustice. If it is not an evil, if it's not a form of evil, then tell me, leave a comment below, let me know what it is. By rough estimate, only 10%, 5% of the population own the majority of the wealth. You can run statistics as much as you like, because everybody can be a professor if they want, because of the internet. We have arrived, we have reached into the age of knowledge. Even somebody who did not go to school can now have knowledge. Go online, do a research, take time, read, gain knowledge, acquire change, play, pray, fall in love with your family, with your lovers, give, exchange gifts, go and party, have fun, have laughter, receive healings, work hard, help the poor, help the disabled. Do your bit, do your best, but remember, capitalism is here to stay. We are looking at development. We are also looking at our culture, we are looking at progress. The development would have succeeded if the culture had also been working. We have created wealth. We have developed technology, trade and industry. We created, economic miracles. We have countries flowing in wealth, in milk. I mean, Britain is a country flowing with milk and honey. How is it the case that the majority of British people still languish in poverty, including the middle class, who depend on the credit system? The credit system is closing down. And when it closes down, the middle class will disappear. They will be poor. Abject poverty. People will be sent into concentration camp. It's already happening by government policy, sending the British people into libraries, sending the British people into schools, into churches, because they cannot afford the cost of energy. Because they cannot afford the cost of food. You have food banks. You have an energy bank. Sooner or later, we're going to have so many banks. I don't know what is the next bank we are going to have. Energy banks, food banks, what else? We talk about child poverty, the level of child benefit, the structure of such child benefit policy. But I would say this, that benefit such as child tax credit, working tax credit, universal credit, and all the other elements, including pension, including child benefit, all the benefits, the level should go up in terms of work. All the payments, the minimum national minimum wage, the national living wage, all the levels should go up from 11% for minimum wage and living wage to something like twice or 3 times. I don't mind if it is £30,000 per annum. This will get the British people out of poverty. It may also be the case that most people working may not need benefits. We raise the level of minimum wage up. Also, if we raise the level of universal credit up and equate it with the national minimum wage and national living wage, so that somebody who is not working is going to get £30,000 in benefit. Britain, the government may talk of sending the British people into work, but you see, the British government has no right to tell the British people what to do, because we are citizens. We work if we want to. You're not supposed to force us into work. You see, because we are poor, if you are the British Prime Minister, you're a multimillionaire, nobody is going to ask the British Prime Minister to go to work. They work if they want. They are millionaires. You don't abuse the British people by telling them to go back to work. You don't tell the British people to go back to work. They go back to work if they want to. The only thing you have to do is design a benefit system which reasonably support the British people. That's the language. Support the British people in the work. If they don't want to work, then they have to explain why they don't want to work. And if you are a politician in Britain, if you are a prime minister who wants to listen to the British people are not lazy. And please, if you are a politician, we saw it with the Conservatives, stop insulting the British people. The British people work so hard to build the wealth we now have. We are on the verge of accessing technology. It is an insult to the British people to describe them, also to construe that they are lazy. They are not lazy. They have their dignity. That's why they work for a living. The British people fought wars for their king and queens. And is it now you're going to insult us because you sold off the country to the highest bidder, and now you want to make us into slaves, insulting us, disrespecting us, telling us to go to work. We know we want to work. Nobody wants benefit. We are not thieves. Because we are poor, so you call us thieves. We don't want to work. We want to take government money for nothing. We don't. Give us decent work. Reform employment law. Give us more rights. More job security. And let me tell you, to your face, British government, there is a myth that there is full-time work provided by capitalism. There is none. It has never been designed to produce work. It was always about wealth. And that's what it does. It creates wealth. And so my message to the British government, prepare to increase the economy of benefit. Because the British people are not going to be employed by the industry. It is not able, because you see, the cost produced by employment cannot be afforded by small and medium businesses. Big businesses are greedy, and the government cannot tell them what to do because they are too powerful for the government. At least you can use some of the power you have to tax them to improve the social welfare system. If you fail to do this, you start playing political game with the British people who are them in the majority, accusing them falsely for being lazy, and trying to force them into work when nobody forces Elon Musk or even Lord Sugar, who are multi-billionaires of the United Kingdom, multi-millionaires, including every member of parliament or ministers. We don't force them. The British people do not force them into work. The government should not be treating us as slaves because we are poor. The government made us poor by operating a system of social injustice. We work so hard. We are paid nothing. We work like slaves. We remain in poverty. And that is proved by the level of the national minimum wage and the level of benefit. Benefit is there to complement the economy, which has failed to provide work, decent work for the British people. And for the government, whether Labour, whether Liberal Democrat, whether Conservative, to turn around and insult the British people. We are going to force them into work. You are not going to force anybody to work if you want peace. You force the British people into work when you do not even raise the level of the national minimum wage. You don't create decent jobs. I am going to create jobs. You see, jobs cost money to the rich who run the economy. The big corporation do not want to pay wages. Ask Elon Musk. How much does he pay his workers? He doesn't pay them. And the government cannot do anything because it is afraid. The government cannot regulate private companies. And that is the problem. So the level of pay is going to be low, keeping the British people in poverty. The condition of work is not going to be there. Sooner or later, technology is going to come of age, and everybody is going to lose their jobs. Where are you going to take them? Are you going to take them into prison, into concentration camp? Yes, you will. Because you should. And from there, you have to kill them. Because if you don't kill them, they're going to die anyway. Kill them quick. Don't put them into concentration camp to make them die miserably. And nobody will be there to bury them. Nobody will care. And that is where we are heading because of technology. Technology is taking work away, and this money created, wealth created by technology is going to be concentrated into the hand of the super rich because they have no morality. They don't give their money for free. They do not understand industrial welfare. They never did. It wasn't their intention. It wasn't in their understanding. You gave the country to them. If you are not sold of Britain to private individuals, 5%, 10% of the population in Britain and across the globe, the British people would have had access to technology. Technology would have created wealth for the British people. Even if they work or not, that's the function of technology. In healthcare, in education, in industry, the purpose of education is to service industry. There is no need for education if there is industry, if technology is now running industry. And ultimately, when technology improves, there will be no need for employment and also for trade. Stay tuned, continue watching. So we are looking to re-examine, to wrap this exercise up and watch this video and the rest of the video to connect them together to understand what we have been talking about. We have been talking about work, United Kingdom, linking it with different thinking, like a train of thought. Talk about cultural economy, developmental economy, talk about progress, talk about peace or lack thereof, talk about wealth, talk about power, talk about capitalism, talk about marketization, talk about social inequality, social injustice, insecurity, national security, global security, individual safety. What makes us happy? What makes us sad? as a society. It doesn't matter what we achieve. We are less and less and less in relevance. We are sad and sad. We are more and more violent. We are more devious. The more power we have, the more corrupt we are. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts even more because of cultural failure. And that's what I've been talking about. Leave a comment below. Let me know. Because you are the truth. You are a human being. Your values. That's what I've been saying. So we are looking at national minimum wage. We are closing this template, this element of learning. And the purpose for this learning has been to illustrate problems in society and try to look for solutions. The problem of peace. The cost of living is evidence of failure. Our failure to bring peace, to maintain peace. We cannot be happy without peace. I keep saying this, I keep repeating that. So we are looking at payments. We looked at our unauthorized deduction from wages. Sometimes if you work for living, you are experiencing unauthorized deduction from wages. We looked at that in the process of looking at employment, outlining the legislative protection for a worker with unauthorized deduction from their wages by an employer, including who is protected, what and when deduction can be made, special rules for retail employees, and how to dispute deduction. This is a specific policy element in the United Kingdom. You go online on gov.uk to access this information about work. Work is relevant in terms of social policy, relevant in terms of social policy because of pay. And so the level of pay, condition of work need to improve. Message to the government of Britain. That is the starting point. But like I said, going forward, we have to start valuing humanity at a level of education in what I refer to as cultural economy. Thank you so much. Continue watching. Stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel, subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much. Looking at when you get paid, when you leave work, but you also get paid when you work. You get paid when you're leaving. You can check if your final pay you can check on your final pay if it is paid when you're leaving your job. If you're paid the right amount, if it is right, or what steps to take. When you need to take steps, stay tuned, continue watching. Thank you so much. So we talk about pay. We talk about payment of wages. Normally when you're in trouble with your employer in terms of payment, there are sources of help you can get from local services within the social sector, local authority, from lawyers, from barristers, solicitors, from legal advisors, and from other people. You can go online, you can visit ACAS. And if you live in England, there are always help from advisors. You live in Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales. This is countries forming the United Kingdom. Then you look at payment of wages, which we did. We look at it, we look at different elements of when payments of wages are made, itemized. We look at pay statements, itemization of pay statement, the different elements of pay statements. We look at that. And these are the kind of thing you do when you are trying to handle the problem of payment, because there are always dispute. The law will try to deal with it. But like I said about payment, and also whether you are looking at the details of the law or policy, in the end you talk about development. And this development should be oiled and also massaged and nourished with cultural respect, value of humanity. You balance this with the law, you balance this with employment law, policy of the government, you bring the human element of these laws to make it humane, to make it human, including wages of payment of wages. You don't need to really fight as an employer, fighting with an employee, making them feel as if they are slaves, and treating them as if you are a master, a dictator over them. You are a brute force. The employment-employer relationship should be normalized, it should be humanized. We think of wealth, we think of development, we want to run our business, but we have to learn to be humane as employers, as employees. We have to respect our bosses. We have to we don't need to be told to come to work. We know we are committed to working to help the company we work for. And if it wasn't for necessity, we could even work without pay. Willingly. We don't even need contract. If our culture was working, we didn't need the law. We didn't need the policy. Because we would be honest. We would trust even if there is no law. That's what I mean by culture. Respect for yourself. Respect for your employer. The employer respects themselves. We have dispute with payment of wages. You have to look at the nitty-gritty, like itemized pay statements, to make sure your employer is not playing games with you. If you have your culture in order, all these details I have been going through to look at how the employment law operates, which are really complex, with overpayment of wages and expenses. Sometimes your employer overpays you by mistake, or when wages are paid and expenses are overpaid, you have to pay it back. If you know you have been overpaid, you pay it back. If your employer discovers that he has overpaid you, okay, you continue working, no problem. You have been overpaid, you have spent the money, maybe we will work out something. Maybe we will take a bit of money back over time. It is my mistake, it is our mistake. We are family after all. I mean, this shouldn't be a problem. But now, because the culture has failed, we have lost our humanity. We now rely on laws. And these laws are extremely complex. Believe it or not, that I went through them, I can go through them again. And if you watch the video, you will really be so happy to discover how complicated the law is. The employment law, I found it really, you talk about employment wages. All right, that's good, because I'm looking through the materials, and these are the elements you need now to know. Because if you don't know it, you have to pay a lot of money to a lawyer if you are disputing with your employer. So this is the value now of the law and policy, which is online. If you don't do that, you might not be able to find justice. Because justice means you broke the law, or you didn't comply with it, or something wasn't right in terms of the law. That is what injustice is. But there are also factors of unfairness. I haven't broken the law, but somebody has suffered. Like when you don't get paid everything you should be paid, because it's just not possible. I mean, things have gone wrong. The employer cannot afford it, or the employer exploits all the loopholes, and they just dodge responsibility because of cultural failure. So these items give information about wages and how they are paid. It does not deal with deductions from wages or changes to the amount of wages someone might receive. So we're looking at items of information we get in relation to the law. We get different types of itemized information. We get different items of information about wages. We get information about how wages are paid. See, and we also learn how it does not deal with deduction. Talk about deductions in terms of employment law deductions, and the information we have here is to help. Is like a guide to help employers, to employ professionals, to have employees to understand the nitty-gritty of the practical work of work and employment law, which relate to that. You need to learn it, because if you don't learn it, you are in trouble. This particular bit of information does not deal with deduction from wages or changes to the amount of wages a client receives. There may be changes of wages, there are changes to the amount of wages a client may get. A client is an employee in this example. You can also visit the internet to look at when a client is protected from having an authorized deduction from their wages. Like I said, if you are an advisor, if you are advising yourself, you will need to be alert to see if there are protection in law. Like I said, if all this would not be necessary if we were culturally educated. So we are looking and we are doing an overview to try and relate this to the practical world. You look at an employee, what you can do about cuts in wages. Sometimes you work and your wages are cut, and you have to go through complicated process to try and resolve the matter. If our culture was working, we would be honest people, we would be clever enough to understand complexity. We don't have to complex employment law facility because we trust one another. Because we don't trust one another, we produce materials such as this. We're looking at the amount of wages. We're just summarizing what we have been doing. And for example, from the 1st of April 1999, it is a national minimum wage. This applies to most workers with certain exceptions. So we talk about exception, we also talk about the rules. These are things we went through. There are rules and there are exceptions to the rules. The national minimum wage is paid at different rates depending on the worker's age and on whether they are trainee or apprenticeship. This is going through what we have already gone through. Agricultural workers have their own minimum wage. We have different minimum wage with relation to different aspects of work. And leave a comment below if you think it is important, if you think it is not. I've already spoken about all these things. You can look online about national minimum wage, minimum wage, minimum pay in the agricultural industry. And you comment below if you are in the agricultural industry. Let me know your thinking, and so the worker will be entitled to more pay than the national minimum wage. We looked at that, if they have this right in their contract. So we'll talk about contract. They also talk about statutory rights. Contract and statutory instruments give rights. These are legal instruments. Contract is a type of law. Statute is also a type of law. That the statute gives more rights than contract. So now, because of privatization, we have seen the growth of contractual relationship, which is the watering down rights for employee, and also rights generally and obligations also for the employer. Employer have less obligation, employee have less right under contract. So we see the rise of these transformation changes in the law. which makes it even more complex because of privatization. For a worker who is not covered by the national minimum wage or agricultural minimum wage, let's remember about national minimum wage and agricultural minimum wage. The amount of pay they are entitled to is governed only by what is in their contract of employment. So, for a worker who is not covered by the national minimum wage, the national minimum wage is statutory. So agricultural minimum wage is statutory also. So if you are not covered by the statute, then the amount of pay you are entitled to is governed only by what is in your contract of employment, like I said. So in as much as in Britain we talk about the minimum wage, which is the statutory protection, we have now more and more employment based on contract. And you can below why not everyone is covered by statutory national minimum wage, and some people are covered by contractual national minimum wage. These details are important, but I would say what's important is the level of national minimum wage, and it should be universal. Everybody should be getting the minimum wage. If they are paid more than the national minimum wage, then it's okay. They are still covered, and that they also covered in addition with the contractual obligation in law, because they're earning more than national minimum wage. So in terms of standard pay, I think there's an element of discretion, but nevertheless, what I would say in effect about national minimum wage is what I said previously, that the level should go up. Anybody getting national minimum wage or even agricultural minimum wage should get at least £30,000 to get the British people out of poverty. The contractual obligators, the employer setting up contract with the level of pay, can do what they like, but the government should increase the level of minimum wage statutory pay, right, which is what national minimum wage and national agricultural wage, which are statutorily obligated. This should be raised by the government so that industries can pay employees about £30,000 per month, and this should be obligatory. They should be statutorily enshrined as refined within these laws, and that should be enforceable. But in terms of small and medium businesses, I believe the government should pay them grants where they don't actually make profit, and also if they are so small, then the grant should be treated as a type of, statutorily obligated payment, similar to national minimum wage, and within the commercial business payment, because these are small and medium businesses, they are poor, and therefore there should be a derivative from the national minimum wage and agricultural minimum wage to form a new policy set to pay grants for small and medium businesses who may not be making profit up to a certain level. If they're already making money, then there should be a top up so that their profit as a minimum should be about £30,000. I talk about £30,000 arbitrarily because I talk through experience. The objective of any payment, whether it is from work, because self-employment is a form of work, as in small and medium business, agricultural working is work, normal working is work. They should get the British people out of poverty at the very least. That is only one component, and the other component should be a broader support to deal with families and communities to manage their debt. Because you see, if you have money, you should manage your debt, and the government should invest in systems of national education, national enlightenment about debt, because debt and low pay are the two planks of poverty creation in the United Kingdom. People don't manage their money, they are financially incapable. So we need to produce a growth of professionals who support families, even before they get into trouble, there should be a form of training, national training, which should be a prerequisite, a precondition of accessing help from the government. Government should create a genuine training facility which will support you as you register for benefit, as you register for work, for the national minimum wage if you're working. You at the same time register through employers to support maybe once a week. Every employer should be debt compliant. They should be able to produce financial capability, because this is the main source of poverty. People do not know how to manage their income, how to pay their bills, how to deal with income and income and expenditure facilitation. So these are the kind of things I've been talking about. Stay tuned, continue watching. We are going to stop this video here, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much. Now you watch up to this point, you are champion. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and look after yourself, and leave a comment below. Share a family video with family and friends, and let me know what you think. Thank you. Bye bye.
MVC record.
Propaganda on the beat.
Como Naya.